quick question, Pac-Man. What is it? How come Wario turns gold? Well, we should probably save that particular topic if we manage to get this video started. Okay then. Hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the one and only, Silver the Hedgehog here, and I'm Pac-Man here, and we are back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of WarioWare, Get It Together for the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we've essentially did manage to went into the continuation portion of Story Mode, because no matter what though, we did somehow manage to went into not only one, but 3 towers that we did somehow went into, like specifically All Mixed Up, Super Hard, and Thrill Ride. And despite the fact that we did somehow failed on Thrill Ride twice, that is mainly because of certain characters' disadvantages for certain microgames. And in addition to that, we also went into Penny's Mix, and also we did somehow manage to went into Showdown. And as a result, we did somehow wrap things up everything for the entire story mode. So today for this video is about the fact that we're going to be able to show you guys the forms of certain other contents of how this game actually has to offer. But before we show off some extra modes throughout the game, there is one little thing we want to classify for something, because if you couldn't tell already, our coins counter is a little bit different, and on top of that, how come Wario turns gold? Well, the reason being for this is because originally though, we've decided able to actually cut this off screen, to able to actually find 4 of those missing microgames, but as it turns out, we've already got them into our main file. So as a result, I think this might be a quickest way for doing this, and because of that though, we just feel like it. So, and if you're probably wondering, how do you able to actually turn Wario into gold? Well, there is actually this mode called Crew, which I suppose that particular topic can wait until specifically until tomorrow, because believe it or not, this might actually be the final weekend for WarioWare Get It Together before we move on to the next installment, which appears to be WarioWare Move It. So, yeah, I apologize for that commentary, it's a little bit slightly slippy, but that's just mainly because that's as far as we can able to discuss upon that front. So, either way, let's get into the forms of Playopedia, because obviously, if you couldn't tell, since we did somehow missed out on 4 microgames, so we figured we was able to get our opportunity to able to show you guys some missing microgames. So, if I recall correctly, there was one missing microgame on Nintendo Classics, and one of them is missing in Nature, and one of them is missing in Sports, and finally, one of them is missing in Anything Goes. So, as a result, here's the first of one of those microgames we did somehow miss, and that, as a result, we're going into WarioWare Twisted. So, it appears to be one of those references from the previous games or something. So, because of that, though, and also, as you can tell, that ever since entering the forms within WarioWare Inc. Minigame Mania, alongside with WarioWare Touched, and as well as the forms of WarioWare Gold, obviously, if you couldn't tell, we actually have ourselves the flower icons with any other microgames, which means in order able to actually access the flower icons, as you can tell, that in order able to actually go for a specific scoring system, we need to able to actually access to every single characters in the game. So once you get all of the characters in the game, you are able to actually access to, as you can tell, we actually have a choice between 4 different modes, depending on what specific microgame you want to go for, like a crew of 1, a crew of 3, a crew of 5, and use all. So, we're also able to go for use all for this run, especially concerning for the fact that there is one in particular character we haven't exactly saw in action for some microgames for sure, and that, you probably already guessed it already, that's what appears to be Pyro himself. So as a result, we're able to actually give him a bit of a spotlight in certain microgames we haven't exactly played just yet. So because of that, yeah, as you can tell, for the sake of clarity, is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, is the 3rd of February today, in some cases in 2024 today, and I think, fundamentally speaking, though, we've only just got about 13 more days to go until Mario vs. Donkey Kong on the Nintendo Switch as a remake will be releasing. So because of that though, still we're very excited for this, especially concerning after the events of this particular, well, let's just say on a hiatus kind of way for the sake of the previous games. So either way, and this is what he looks like for Pyro right here, where basically you're able to extend the tongue in multiple angles, so everything else will be come together at that point. So because of that, And as you can tell, there are some characters we did somehow already turn them into gold, but there are some character exceptions, mainly because if you couldn't tell already, I haven't exactly fully 100%ed this game just yet. Mainly because there are some missions are pretty easy and some of them are actually really difficult to accomplish. Mainly because, as we said this before, certain characters do have some advantages for some microgames, and other times they do have disadvantages. So because of that though, yeah, you probably expect what were we trying to say, for the sake of the Falls of the Past parts ago or something. So because of that, did you guys know about the fact that I suppose that, you know how the fact that we are pretty excited when it comes to the forms of, Sonic X Shadow Generations is going to be on its way? As it turns out, there was actually more to it for the sake of the forms of Shadow content, at least specifically Shadow the Hedgehog content, for the sake of 2024, because some people attempt to say about the fact that 2024 is going to be a huge year for Shadow the Hedgehog, not just because of the forms of, well, as I say, the third season for the sake of Sonic Prime, but it was also with the forms of, you know, Sonic X Shadow Generations will be on its way on multiple systems, and of course, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, and there was also the forms of the DLC costume is going to be on its way until specifically the 15th of February, to be more specifically, the halfway point in that specific month. And as it turns out, we're about to be getting a DLC costume for Sonic Superstars, and this is going to be based off from Shadow the Hedgehog. So because of that, we're not exactly sure how it looks like, but I'm sure that either Sonic and Knuckles will mention more about it, or potentially speaking of, we'll save that particular topic until in a future time. So anyway, that pretty much does it for WarioWare Twisted, and let's move on to the next microgame we did somehow missed, and as a result, it appears to be basket and ball. So we have to do like some specific objectives depending on what specific level variants we'll go into. So for instance, I think in level 1 we need to move the basket over, so just in case we'll let the basketball go into the basket, and there might be a couple of times that we have to move the ball. So potentially speaking, yeah, we can't move the basket, but we have to move the ball itself. So obviously, if you ever played the forms of WarioWare Inc. Minigame Mania alongside with WarioWare Twisted and Touched, as well as the forms of WarioWare Gold as well, the more you're trying to able to score some more points, obviously you get yourselves the actual flower, which means you're able to pass the score. So basically though, it's about the fact that certain score requirements can be summed up as like 15 points, or all the way up to 30 points for some of these microgames. However though, for boss microgames though, thankfully it's like 5 points you need to go into, just like the forms of how it does it ever since in the original WarioWare Inc. Minigame Mania. So yeah, no complaints there. Although I suppose that could be also applies to the forms of WarioWare Twisted as well, I guess. So because of that, despite the fact that we haven't exactly touched upon WarioWare Twisted for a while, and it's especially noticeable concerning for the fact that our Game Boy Advance is not usually capable of having a best battery life at the moment. So because of that, that's the reason why we always attempt to bring a charger over, just in case for the sake of the forms of trying to able to make the entire experience a little bit more interesting. So oh yeah, there's also another thing we want to mention something, is about the fact that, well, recently, that Splatfest is already going to be hosting the next Splatfest for Splatoon 3, and as a result, this time around, though, is actually going to be based off from certain days, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And guess what? The entire Splatfest is about to be begun until roughly the exact same time as in the 13th anniversary of the Maxi Toys YouTube channel. So that's actually pretty interesting. Yeah, which is especially concerning for the fact that despite we haven't exactly touched upon Splatoon for some time, hopefully we'll get around to doing these kinds of games, because for what I've noticed is about the fact that we've almost got 2 months left until the online services is about to shut down for the Nintendo Network, not just by the forms of the 3DS, but also for the Wii U as well. So this might be the most unfortunate thing in the world, especially because concerning for the fact that we still get it about the fact that with all this new generation has been up, so that's how I could really think about it. Oh, and by the way, if you pass that specific score requirement, as you can tell, you're able to actually get yourself some more coins. So definitely worth noting for, especially concerning for the fact that, well, as you can tell, that since we did somehow pass the score, this means we basically done everything for the sake of that microgame itself. But keep this in mind though, Sulfur, is about the fact that it only requires all of these crew members in order able to do this. So, anyways, let's move on to the next micro game that we have not seen yet. And as a result, we're going on to nature. And this what appears to be by the forms of Trumpers, I think is what it says anyway. And this actually does require us to able to move the a bucket around, and potentially speaking, we need to feed certain birds in order to able to succeed by this. So this might be a little bit tricky, especially concerning for the fact that, well, despite the fact that we've never actually come across into this micro game at all throughout the forms of the regular story mode playthrough, but thankfully we did somehow manage to found it on here, so even then know, yeah, something tells me I need to maybe touch the bucket, or just, dang it, we somehow messed this up. But then again though, it's been about 6 days ago since we've last played this game for sure. I mean, relatively speaking though, despite the fact that we actually gone the actual process a bit more... Oh, you kidding me? Okay, this is getting a little bit out of hand to me though. Well, relatively speaking though, at the very least we can able to use... I don't know, Oberon. Oh, okay, that'll work. That'll work, I guess, especially concerning for the fact that I think I don't know how many points we need to get up to get the actual flower icon, but this is going to be a little bit tricky in some scenarios, especially concerning for the fact that, well, despite the fact that on the other hand though, there are certain micro games that are pretty hit and miss for the most part when it comes to the forms of, you know, certain advantages for certain characters, like Red, for instance, whilst other times they do have, you know, disadvantages for some characters, like, Dribble, for instance, that, you know, he can only, well, at least it's not too bad for the most part. It's just that with certain other characters I was going to be referring to, like, let's just say, for example, for the sake of the forms of Dr. Krygor, if I'm assuming so anyway, that, I'm not exactly sure if that particular advantage could help, so... yeah, we did literally try our best if we were able to actually go for an aim for a high score. And, oh, we have to drag it. Okay. I almost assume that's going to be like, I don't know, you have to juggle with it. But as it turns out, it's not juggle based. So, oh well, at least that's that. So, yeah, not very great at this one though. But that's always something. Anyway, so there's technically one more micro game that we haven't exactly shown yet. And that, it has to be on Anything Goes. And which micro game we actually not come across into yet. And that will have to be Where Goes the Nose. So basically though, we need to require 30 points in order to able to get that flower icon on that specific micro game. So, which is luck, I guess, especially because the main emphasis on this micro game is that we need to find the correct nose for Wario. So, that's the ultimate goal for this point. So, yeah, I was about to be thinking about the same thing, you know? And every time whenever you go into the actual micro games on Playopedia, sometimes though you're able to come across into the characters' corresponding monitors to able to know who was actually on screen. So it feels kind of similar to the forms of how it does it in WarioWare Gold in some respect. So, but either way, that's as far as saying goes, that's as far as we can able to mention about the forms of some micro games that we did somehow want to show off, especially concerning for the fact that, well, at the very least though, is that unlike in WarioWare Smooth Moves, that we did somehow miss for a grand total of 3 micro games, so at the very least though, this is almost pretty close when it comes to likely missing micro games though, unlike some other games in general that we did miss a whole bunch of them, likely in WarioWare Twisted for example, just because no matter what though, because of the forms of the actual emulation recording session, there sometimes feels a bit awkward to able to try to deal with, because again, we refuse to able to try with the forms of the actual GameCube console, because that makes the entire process a lot frustrating, but that's just me. So, anyways though, and I suppose no matter what though, is about the fact that since that state of play has already been over, ever since Journey Forms have been 3 days ago, all needs left now is just the Nintendo Direct, and that'll be about it when it comes to like news and updates, at least for now. At least to be more specifically though, since that we are on February right now, this means we might able to get one for probably, for what I've heard anyway, until next week or so. Well, it's kind of difficult to tell at this point because, relatively speaking, we are seriously desperate, want able to know about more information about the forms of some announced games, or some more information on some other games like Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Well, nothing major for Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, but to be more specifically, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door as a remaster remake, because we seriously want to know what certain new features they'll added in for that particular amazing RPG game. So, it seems to be more specifically though for this point, Silver, is that we're actually getting some really fantastic selections of titles right now for the majority of the Nintendo Switch up to this point right now. Yeah, which is especially noticeable considering for the fact that Nintendo Switch is just, you know, doing pretty well, especially considering for the fact that after the events of that floppy, or flopped Wii U. So as a result, that Nintendo Switch is doing super duper strong, which as a result, I've noticed that I think, potentially speaking of, they're also able to do a actual Switch style update, until specifically at some point later down in the road for the sake of February. So I suppose we'll find things out more details about that until eventually, but not now anyway. Ah, come on! We were 2 points away to able to actually reach that target. Oh, we were so close. Yeah, but that's just the way how we feel about in regards to the forms of playing as 9 volts in this game, just because sometimes he can be uncontrollable when it comes to certain microgames because he just cannot stop. So, but yeah, that's as far as all you can say about the forms of some microgames in general. So let's just move on to the next mode we can show off, and that's what appears to be Wario Cup. Keep this in mind, since we're going to be using our main file after all. This mode is only accessible if you do manage to subscribe to the forms of the Nintendo Switch Online subscription services, because if you don't have one of these, this mode is inaccessible. So because of that, good thing we've already redeemed that ever since in sometime in April. So, well, technically April last year, after the events of the Super Mario Bros. Movie after all, since Journey forms that specific point. So currently, as for right now, we are tackling through one of those specific challenges, like specifically, let the music move you. So because of that, and also you can able to participate on previous challenges, like for example, there's the Super Mario World Marathon, which actually forces you to play as 3 different playable characters in all three different levels, and you need to be fast on that. Sometimes some of these challenges are score-based, some challenges are time-based, and vice versa though, really. So as you can tell, on the Super Mario World Marathon that we did somehow already went into, we've got the bronze trophy, meaning about the fact that we need to be super duper fast at it for some scenarios, but even then though, at least we did somehow tried. So, and I believe, relatively speaking though, in order to able to let those specific challenges to happen, in regards to the forms of the Wario Cup mode, is that these are usually scheduled within a few weeks. So, relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that we would have liked able to tackle through every single cups during the forms of this entire mode, but I don't think it's probably necessary, because obviously we've already seen all these microgames already, but except the fact that, as you can tell, that if you manage to able to try to achieve the forms of the Bronze Cup or the Silver Cup, or even the Gold Cup for that matter, you're able to actually win certain rewards, like specifically coins for instance, so you can able to actually spend on something on the actual crew mode. So, but then again, we'll show that off and eventually at some point until tomorrow, but relatively speaking, though, that's as far as we can able to say about the forms of specific topic at this point today. Although we would have liked able to explain something else, but let's just say we'll let Ray or Sonic and Knuckles were able to all mention about different topics and join at some point whenever they've almost finishing up, not just by the forms of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but also with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze before we move on to the next batch of Let's Plays. And I felt incredibly bad that we didn't actually tackle anything for Sonic the Hedgehog just yet, because obviously that there's a good reason why that we've decided able to actually go through those 3 games first, because obviously we haven't got anything related to Sonic the Hedgehog just yet until now that we finally got ourselves the remastered version of Sonic Generations. And still, like what Sonic and Knuckles has already mentioned about this before, that is actually pretty cool that we've almost gotten every single boost used Formula Sonic games to be released on multiple systems like PlayStation 4 and as well as Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. Mind you that Nintendo Switch never receives Sonic Unleashed, but that's just mainly because I get the strong sense of feeling that I'm not exactly sure if Sonic Unleashed might get remastered anytime soon. I mean, relatively speaking though, they've already have the ability to able to play Sonic Unleashed for the likes of the Xbox Series X for its faster frame rate as well as the best graphical fidelity, like for instance with 4K and also with 60 frames per second. But aside from all that stuff though, still no luck of the forms of the PlayStation 5 release either. But that's just mainly because by that point in time, it's only backwards compatibility for the PlayStation 4 stuff. So because of that, kind of a bummer though, but hey, at least on the upside is though, is about the fact that I'm really looking forward to able to try out Sonic Generations again, but this time with the forms of well, multiple versions of the game. The only exception being is the PS5 version, just because we were expecting to able to maybe try to get it by that time once Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is going to be releasing, or heck, even especially noticeable with Kingdom Hearts 4 as well. But time will tell though, especially considering for the fact that we still have to able to like, well, save up for some of these other titles, like, you know, Princess Peach Showtime. I think, relatively speaking, of what I've heard anyway, that Coco Bandicoot, including Tiana the Frog, was expecting to able to pre-ordering Princess Peach Showtime until, like, mainly at the forms of the midway portion of February. So, yeah, again, we'll have to wait and see what happens, so... And as you can see, the more we've progressed in Journey forms of some challenges, as you can tell, then the more faster you'll get, at least depending on what challenges you select. And on top of that, how tricky it can be, depending on what level you go into, like level 1, level 2, or level 3. So, yeah, and also we got ourselves some lives, so even though we unfortunately lost 2 lives so far. So, still, no matter what though, is about the fact that if you really want to get out of your way, to able to actually completely done with everything, well, by all means, you can able to actually go ahead and accept the challenge. So, and as you can tell, since we're going to be using 18 volts for the majority of the volts of this particular challenge, so yeah, because obviously we need to able to toss the specific CD discs to able to actually just to, you know, try to succeed certain microgames. So, oh jeez. I don't know, we go into vertical formation right here. Yeah, because obviously, as we said this before, it gets a little bit tricky though, especially on this one right here with 18 volts, because you have to aim on that specific pegs to hang on to. So, unfortunately no trophy sadly, but at the very least we did somehow complete something. So, and if you really want to show the actual records online, then by all means you can able to just, well, connected the actual record in online. So I don't feel like trying to do that, but that's just mainly because we still haven't exactly got that trophy on that challenge. So yeah, I suppose that's pretty much about it for the Wario Cup. So I suppose, with that being said, we got the endings of this point right here. So join us tomorrow for more of Let's Play of WarioWare Get It Together. Is that this might actually potentially be the true finale of this entire Let's Play, and that will show off the variety pack. But don't expect things to be exciting, because I don't think it's possible we can show everything else off, I'm afraid. So we'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.